Marcus, the past 2 years, as they have been for everyone, have been incredibly challenging for the Assembly. Yet despite those challenges, the lack of the ability to really directly communicate and consult with the community to a large degree, a lot of work and success has been achieved. There's the treaty framework with a decision on a hybrid model. With the support from the state government, there's now the establishment of the Youth Justice Commission. But right now it seems that the main emphasis is on the treaty authority. First up, what is the role of the treaty authority?
I mean, you talk about the last 2 years, they've been difficult, they've been challenging, but like everything, every challenge and every difficulty gives you a new opportunity to try things differently. And we've gone about a whole new way of engaging our community through online Facebook Lives, reaching out through phone calls, having a hotline, a treaty hotline. So we've had to pivot, do things differently, and now we're back to face-to-face, which is exciting. And in particular, back to face-to-face talking about a treaty authority, an independent umpire, an independent entity that will hold both parties accountable to negotiate. So we released a discussion paper last week, I think it was, asking our community about what's the scope, what's the shape, what's the membership, what's the functions, like what does this need to look like to ensure 3 fundamental things. It's independent, it's Aboriginal-led, and it's in our shape, our design, our aspiration. So we've got I think a window between Jan 10, I think it is. We're out seeking feedback. Our members are also out doing consultations with their constituents, community members who have elected them, to understand what the authority needs to look like. But what really we need to do as an Assembly is bring back what we've heard. We need to, discuss that. We need to debate that. We need to make a decision, and we need to move forward with it.
So there has already been quite a bit of discussion about the treaty authority, and what the Assembly has put forward is a preliminary document or a preliminary structure for the treaty authority. So what are you actually wanting from the community in response to that document that's out there now?
So we've put out some ideas. As it is, it's a discussion paper. It's to promote prompt discussion around what this could be. One thing we're clear on is we're not going to accept a predetermined outcome or a cookie cutter approach from the government. We're going to go to community, we're going to get them to design it, they're going to have the pen, they're going to be the architects, they're going to tell us what they want, and then we're going to bring it back. We've got to reach every corner of Victoria to understand what this needs to look like, bring it back, make a decision, and then start moving forward, similar to what we've done with the Youth Justice Commission design.
Well, talking about getting out there with community, I know that this week you and other Assembly members were meant to be going out to the state's east, out to the Gippsland area. That was meant to be about a 4-day tour out there and consulting with community on all things to do with treaty and the Assembly's work. What happened there to stop that work?
Well, firstly, I want to apologise to our mob out in Gippsland, because I've tried 3 times to get down there now, and COVID has tripped me up just about every one of them. So that was me going down to spend some time with mob down there, have some discussions, and make sure we're down there for a fair amount of time to hold the conversations. Now, having conversations with Aboriginal leaders and elders down that way and organisations, they basically said that there's some things going down there that they're trying to get on top of and trying to manage as a broader community across Gippsland, and it'd be respectful for us and helpful for them if we moved it back to February. So we're planning to get back down there in Feb. We'll probably spend a bit more time down there this time, but I guess the consultations and the conversations down there, I'll be heavily relying on our elected members down there in Kayleen, Peter and Alice and Troy. So 4th time's the charm in this case. 4th time, well, it'll be the 3rd. I managed to get down there in February 2020, but previously the it is 4th time. You're right, 4th time's the charm. I have missed out 3 times, and this will be the 4th, but can't wait to get down there. Can't wait to have the conversations, and it's frustrating, but we're keen to get down there. But we're lucky we've got some amazing and deadly members down there who are out there, in every corner of Gippsland, consulting with their mob and understanding what this needs to be. And I remember I seen a couple of days ago Alice putting the discussion paper out on Facebook, I think it was, saying let's have a yarn, let's actually understand what this could be. So they're doing amazing work down there, and it'd be an absolute privilege to go down there and spend some time with our members in the community.
Well, during the last chamber meeting, which was last Friday and Thursday, the 2nd and 3rd of December, a lot of interesting things were brought up and discussed, as we always expect during an Assembly chamber meeting. And one of those was The question that we spoke about last time when we had a bit of a yarn, which was empowering Aboriginal people in the formal political structure, and that was going to be either a black parliament or reserved seats in the current parliament. Now, when Matthew Burns, Taungurung man, an Assembly member, was asked that question, he actually put forward an argument for both a black parliament and reserved seats in the state parliament. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the only place that I've heard or seen commentary about being a black parliament or reserved seats is in the media. The commentary amongst our members has been both, that we could aspire for a black parliament and potential reserved seats. That's what we've heard from our community. That's what we've seen in New Zealand. That's what we've seen from the Sami people with the Sami parliament. And it's a hybrid of both, reserved seats from a New Zealand model and a Sami parliament. How do you sort of combine the both and actually have some level of, I mean, the best way I can describe it is institutional power. A black parliament that makes decisions on policies and legislation that directly impact Aboriginal people or Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Victoria. So we had some good dialogue, and we've had some good dialogue, and that's just part of the journey. That's a bigger conversation that'll take time, be part of the framework and whatnot. But, you know, that's something that we see as up for grabs. Our community have told us loud and clear, and now we have to go back and say, okay, black parliament, reserved seats, is it both? Is it one? Are they connected? What do we do? You know, how's it elected to? What does it mean? You know, there's a lot of questions, because you think about it, okay, reserved seats, is that a Senate-style ticket that goes with our election? There's just a lot of nuts and bolts that we need to think through, have the conversation with our community about. We're not going to get a lot of reserved seats. We've heard them loud and clear, we want reserved seats and a black parliament. What does representation look like? That's the big question. What does representation look like that we can actually reside over decisions that impact us, our lives most?
It's interesting when you talk about elections, we talk about having to elect Aboriginal people to either reserved seats or to a separate black parliament. That when the matter of elections or empowering our people was brought up in the chambers, that Gunai, Yorta Yorta and Gunditjmara man, Alistair Thorpe, was really not backward at all in saying that a lot of the onus rested on the community itself. He was pushing very heavily for Aboriginal people, all those people who are eligible, to enrol on the Aboriginal electoral roll. Now, this has been a matter of contention since even before the Assembly, back with the Victorian Treaty Advancement Commission. We had about 3,000 people enrolled at the last election. What are the hopes for the next election, which is just, what, 2 years away?
Yeah, we're 2 years in as of December 10, so in a couple of days we hit the halfway milestone. I think, and of course, but the Chamber's always got an option of bringing an election forward as well, so... Alistair's spot on. You've got to enrol, you've got to vote. I mean, it's easy to say there's minimal numbers in elected. We've still got a mandate to deliver. People need to turn up and vote. That's the reality. You can sit on the fence, but then you can't complain about the process when you have an ultimate opportunity to influence what our representation looks like. At the next election, who are you going to elect? Who are you going to support? Or are you going to run to negotiate a statewide treaty? There's some big decisions that will sit in front of every Aboriginal person in this state, every traditional owner in this state, and they need to make a conscious decision. Am I going to enrol? Am I going to run? Am I going to vote? And am I going to support someone who I want to vote for? Because statewide treaty has to represent us all. It has to be the tide that raises all ships. So now it is on each and every one of our community members to enrol and vote, to take control over this process, which is theirs.
Well, you've got a bit of a litmus test coming up very soon in the new year with the resignation of Natarsha Bamblett from the northeast regional area. There will be a by-election. First of all, why a by-election, given that recently Arnie Charmaine Clark was brought in on a countback?
It's a timing thing. As I understand, our Constitution has a certain cutoff where you can't do a countback and have to go to a by-election. But I think that's fair enough. We've hit almost a halfway mark. I think the community in the northeast deserve to pick and elect their next person. It shouldn't just be a general countback from 2 years ago. a lot changes in 2 years. We didn't have an international pandemic 2 years ago, so I think it's a great opportunity. We're going to have a significantly big presence. We're hoping you're going to be out there as well. It's going to be, we're going to be out there for 3 months, and we've got some exciting activities planned, as I understand. We've got potentially trying to, exclusive here, potentially a music festival up in the northeast. We're still trying to work out what that may look like, but just all black lineup, get our community there, get them enrolled, build the excitement, let's get some mob running, and let's see the northeast come out in big numbers and back who they think will best represent the interests of the northeast, which is pretty exciting.
When can we expect an announcement of the dates of when the candidacies will open and when the election will actually be held?
I think we're pretty close, but I can't answer that. I'm part of the elected arm, so this is a process that's run by our operations, and it's completely independent of the elected members. We can't be anywhere near this because we're obviously political, they're not. So it's kind of the nuts and bolts around, we need to hit certain targets at certain dates, but I'd assume very early in the new year, if not before, we'll be close to announcing something.
Before we finish up for the day, Marcus, one of the interesting things that occurred at the last chamber meeting was an address by Gabrielle Williams via Zoom, the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs, to the chamber. Now, it was brought up once again by several members, the call for a response, a formal response from the government to documents handed to them by the Stolen Generations Redress scheme. There is a lot of frustration that is obvious within the Assembly itself. What have you heard, and what more can the Assembly do to push the state government for a response?
I think there is, from what the Minister was clear to us, is the response is imminent. It's, within the next 2 weeks we'll potentially see a response. Out of respect to the working group that was put together to actually work on this and develop the report to give the government, the Minister made it very clear that they're in the process of meeting with them to actually, provide information of where it's at, and then we'll receive information about next steps. And what our members made clear is they want a public commitment within the next fortnight, fortnight being from last Friday. And we'll see if the government come out with that commitment. If not, we'll probably have a little bit to say about that publicly. But from what the Minister has said, it's close. But out of due diligence and due respect, they're going to have a conversation to the working group that was put together and sort of done all the heavy lifting and the consultations, and then they'll be in touch with us. So.
Well, Marcus, until next time, thanks very much.
No, thanks for your time.